This podcast is brought to you by Steede Motor Group, Claregalway. For your personalised vehicle shopping experience, find out more at steedemotorgroup.ie.
So delighted now to be joined by the Galway senior hurling selector Kevin Lally to look back on the hurling action over the weekend. And of course, as well, we had the under-20 finals in A and B taking place as well tonight. There's a win there for Thomas's in winning the under-20 B championship, getting over Port Paces. And then, as we're recording now at the minute, it's coming to the end of Clarinbridge and Oranmore, where Clarinbridge lead at the minute. But Kevin, thanks a million for coming on. And just before we get into the action, it's nearly every guest we've had on. We've just been really impressed this year with the standard and the way, I suppose, the new structure of the championship has ran.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm a big fan of it. I think the groups of four have really. I think we all like them, to be honest with you. Yeah, and I think even looking back to last weekend, there was a real. You could really get the real championship fervour. You could see it coming, and I suppose, particularly, the Ardran game, the Ardran Clarinbridge game. But yeah, I like it so far. You can see it. I think it's obviously the less games, and I think it's like if you win the championship this year, you play 6 rounds, whereas remember back with Thomas, I think we might have won a county championship one stage with 9 games. Do you know what I mean? So it's definitely the less games, and I think that's helping you bringing up your quality for sure. Yeah.
We couldn't really have got a better draw for the quarterfinals, could we?
I know. Look, when you look through them, my God, like there's some really tasty draws there. Like, and you go through them, and I suppose we're all picking out who we think we're going to win, but like, yeah, I think we're all agreed there's probably going to be a shock or two in there, isn't there? But yeah, there's some really tasty draws in it, and something for everybody to look forward to, especially. Yeah.
Just before we do get into the action, I don't know how you've been following, but along the championship, we've been doing the power rankings with Jeff Linsky, moving teams up and down, and just been a bit of a backlash from some clubs about their position and different bits and pieces. But nearly everyone has said this, that they still feel Thomas's and Loughrea are still at that 1 and 2 and maybe a bit ahead of the rest. Do you feel that as well?
Yeah, I suppose. Look, there's no doubt. Like, obviously, Thomas's are a good bit. Thomas's are top of the pile. They're going for 6 in a row, of course. But yeah, they look to be moving really, really well. Yeah, our Loughrea are probably your number 2 right now. Yeah, probably are. But like Loughrea have got a tough draw on the quarter final as well. So yeah, look, I think that's probably the common consensus is probably the 2 teams, and I think a lot of the Joe public, I suppose, are probably leaning that way as well. But both of them have tough draws. Obviously, Thomas's Cappy is going to be a tough draw. And then I think the Bridge and Loughrea, I think that's the makings of a cracking game. I think the Bridge are going to get a huge bounce out of getting over the line against Ardran. I think the manner of how they dug it out, because probably with 5-6 minutes to go, you're kind of saying you look like Ardran are going to win it, playing with the breeze. You know, momentum was coming huge, but the way they dug out the game, Clarinbridge, you'd have to be impressed with them. And I think that is the makings of a cracking tie. To me, it's probably the standout draw, Clarinbridge and Loughrea. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like it. And just from your own experience of being with Thomas's, they're obviously going for 6 in a row, and you could even hear David last year when he was asked about 5 in a row. There was already talking about what's 7 in a row, and they did in Peterswell, and it just shows the hunger that's there at the minute. But for that group of players there at the minute, how do they just know what to do at every stage when it comes to this year?
Look, it's probably experience, I suppose, now at this stage, and they know what to do. Like you could, even myself, I was kind of smiling to myself when they got the job done the last day when they beat Turloughmore. You're saying to yourself, yeah, they're off for the 4 weeks now, which is perfect. Like, because they'll probably take a break, maybe the first 5 or 6 days, come back into it. I'm sure they played a challenge match. They might have gone away on a training weekend. But it's just kind of nearly like an annual thing now. Like they have it, just have that I suppose their run. They're going to try and time the run as they always have done. They've obviously tied up a few injuries. They've obviously got bodies back in the field. Yeah, so it was perfect for the teams that were off for the last 4 weeks. To go away, play your challenge game. Get all that stuff. Anyone's carrying a few knocks, get it all tidied up. There's no other distractions. No, I know there's a little bit under 20 going on, but other than that, there's nothing else really going on. Thomas is in or playing in a junior 8. I think they won the quarter final again, so they're in a semi final. So there are probably a few players who probably able to concentrate on that. But yeah, like to go back to Thomas, they'll be delighted to be off the 4 weeks, and they're plotting and planning there, and I'm sure they're going around watching all the preliminary quarter-final games the weekend, and yeah, look, and then I suppose look with Cappy coming down the road for them, yeah.
It's just been referenced with them that there's no sign of panic at any stage. Last year against Loughrea, they seem to be dead and buried. There has been stages in the Galway Championship over the last year where they seem to be dead and buried, but every club wants to build this thing of no panic in those situations. But how are those players just not panicking?
Yeah, like I'm probably going to give you the boring answer here, but it's probably just sticking to the game plan and sticking to the process, and that's what they're doing. They're just breaking it down minute by minute and play by play and puck up and puck out and keep going and keep going and keep going. And I suppose allied to the fact in that they've obviously great experience in the group, and like when you've got leaders like Connor, David, Finton, Shane, James Regan, David Sherry, all these guys, Dara, you know, these guys know how to win games, and I suppose people are probably not like Thomas have lost what 2 games in the bones of 6 years in Galway. So like it's a frightening record, like you know, and those 2 games, I think it was Liam Mello was back in my second year. It was a couple of weeks after we got bet in the All Ireland club final, and then obviously got bet to Turloughmore. But like they're the only 2 games they've lost in the bones of 6 years internally here in Galway, like which you know, when you think about it and you think of all the teams they've gone into battle with, yeah, and you know, it's a phenomenal record. Like it's an absolutely phenomenal record, and look at it's testament to the club, it's testament to their players, it's testament to the character in terms of how they go about their business, and I suppose the professionalism and how they train and how they prepare in terms of what they're doing on the pitch and what they're doing in the gym. Um, yeah, but it's some record. It's absolutely some record. I keep saying it to people. I don't know. Will we ever see the likes of it again? Maybe not. You know, like you know, I suppose you know. Yeah, and it's probably a fair question, isn't it? Like you know, are we going to see a team like them that you know they're going to dominate for so long? It probably is very hard to see it, you know. But they're a brilliant team, joy to watch, lovely, great team to be involved with, obviously. But I suppose secondly now, and I suppose when I've been paying punter, it's nice to go and watch them playing in their full flow. Yeah,
Have you seen them evolve since you left?
absolutely. Yeah, of course they're involved in every year. Like, and I suppose they'll evolve this year again. Obviously, with a new coach and again this year, that's going to change again. And Kenneth and all the guys and Paul Daly and all the boys will be doing everything to make little tweaks here and there, be it from you know set plays, puck outs, you know the way they set up top, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, they'll continue to evolve because I suppose that's what good teams do, don't they? Like you know, and they will continue to improve. I've no doubt about that. Yeah.
Everyone said since David Burke's injury that he almost nearly has a coaching role, and you could actually see it against Turloughmore. He still has that influence off the pitch. You would have seen it a bit with Galway, obviously, when he was injured on the line. But I'd say still, even as a player who's injured, like still has a massive impact on that group.
Of course, he has, Paul. Yeah, look, he's obviously hugely respected. Look for I suppose for everything he's done in the game. You know, but like the one thing about I'd always say about Davy Burke, he just got a brilliant hurling brain. Like he you know, he just sees it. He's just yeah, he sees the game really well. He's a great eye for the game. He's a brilliant hurling IQ. But yeah, you can see him. Yeah, I'd say he'd rather be in the thick of it now. But I'd say he'd rather be playing midfield than being on the line. But yeah, look, I think by all accounts his recovery is going really well, and who knows, we might even see him back before the year's out. Yeah.
That's what everyone said, that they wouldn't be surprised to see him this year.
Yeah, look, yeah, look, should look at David Burke being David Burke. You know, he's going to tick all the boxes, as I said to you before. He's the ultimate pro. He's going to tick all the boxes. Then it's just, I suppose, how he gets on then in terms of his whether he gets the okay from physios and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, look, you can be sure Davey's doing all the right stuff. Yeah.
So just to be able to get in and look at some of the preliminary quarterfinals, Turloughmore and Moycullen was the first one up in Pearse Stadium on Saturday. Turlough got over the line, 22 points to 14. Turlough just ultimately really in this one got the job done. And Moycullen did have those kind of 2 goal chances in the second half, but they just always seem to be able to respond once Moycullen were up getting a few scores on the trot.
Yeah, I think you probably summed it up well there. Yeah, that obviously Turloughmore played with the breeze and got in front, and probably it probably felt like they probably had them at arm's length, and it probably always felt that Moycullen needed a goal. Like even you're saying at the start of the second half, you're probably saying, would even one goal do? You probably needed to get a couple of goals to really get our grip back in the game. Yeah, Turloughmore will be happy. Again, they restructured their team a little bit. Sean Lang was out midfield. I thought he was excellent. And Jamie Holland moved up top. And again, I suppose probably a little bit like Clarinbridge, there's no doubt their panel is getting stronger. Killian Traers is still out, but like when you see guys coming off the bench, like Matthew Tarpey, I thought made a massive difference. He came off the bench. He's a great super player. And then obviously Kevin Hussey came on. You know, he got up to the pitch of the game really well. So yeah, they have a really strong panel. They really have a strong panel, and yeah, they look good. They got the job done. I thought they were professional in the way they went about their business. Yeah, and I suppose just on Moycullen, they'll be disappointed this week, but I think when the dust settles, they'll be saying to themselves, you know what, we did actually have a really good year. They've really established themselves as a senior A team. It's a top 12 team probably. So they'll be happy.
Are you surprised by Moycullen?
I'm not, to be honest with you, because I think the way knowing some of the players they have out there and knowing the management, like, you know, Queeveen Davern, JD Carney, John Hardiman, Kieran Ryan, all those guys are top guys, and there's some top really players. And but if you look, even my time with the Galway Miners, we had a good few Moycullen guys there, and I suppose year on year and annually there's guys breaking through, be it on minor teams, 20s teams, Fitzgibbon teams. So and that's happening for a good few years now. So there's obviously been brilliant work done out there, and I suppose credit to the club on that one, because they really have, I'd say, have got their house in order, and they're a very well established senior A team now. Yeah.
Just on the narrative surrounding Turlough at the minute, the question marks that really seem to be for them at the minute is their inside line, and maybe that they're not getting a return as much as they should be from their inside line. Do you buy that?
Not really. Look at, like, you know, look at the score they put up again the weekend. It's probably a bit of a lazy narrative at this stage, isn't it? And you know, but they just got so much talent. Like, and you see even changing their goalkeeper. Like, and you think even the two goalkeepers they have, like two outstanding goalkeepers. Like, and you know what, so many clubs would love to have one of those guys, and you know, two guys battling out for their position there. And as I said, you look at their bench, the guys that are coming on, and they have a really strong panel. Yeah, really strong squad. And yeah, again, they'll be happy. They're going quietly about their business after the losing to the Thomases. They were probably looking for a reaction. They got a reaction. They went in, got their job done, and they're back in a quarter final, back exactly where they want to be now. Yeah.
Kevin Hussey's obviously to come back into that. He's come on the last two games. So I imagine he's going to come. I suppose the big one really is they want to get Sean Loftus back too, but it's still fairly uncertain whether he's going to be back.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. I think the extent of an injury is a shoulder injury, but I'm not sure how long he's out for. Yeah, it's a tricky one. It's a tough one for Sean, and I suppose especially his brother is playing really well. Dan is playing really well from wing back. I thought he was excellent again the last day. But yeah, they have such a, I suppose, such a strong squad, and I suppose it's probably for their management is just to get that, you know, who plays where, and just try and get their balance right. But they have, yeah, as I said, I'm repeating myself, but they've a top class squad of players. Yeah.
When you talk about top class squad of players, they nearly seem to have all these kind of players who can chip in with 2 or 3 points a game, really, when you look at it. Particularly Sean O'Hanlon's probably been one of the bright sparks this year at the championship. Even the last day, you could tell he got a bang. The physio was telling him to come off, but he was adamant to stay on. And he quietly goes about his business. Jamie Holland, even the last day, Conor Walsh, Daniel Loftus, these players, as you mentioned.
Oh, definitely, yeah. And you're probably Brendan Phelan, Barry Cannon, Conor Shaughnessy. You know, they're all really good. They're all really good forwards, really, aren't they? Yeah, but you're right what you're saying about Sean. I think Sean clipped in with 4 points. Went about his business really well. I suppose he's your stereotypical wing forward up and down the field, linking the play. Thought he got his shots away really well. Yeah, but they, as I said, they've a super squad of players. Yeah.
You can almost see more probably compared now to intercounty to club, but Dahi Burke at centre back, you obviously have that bit more of a license to go forward at certain stages at club level. But when you're seeing him on the ball driving forward, you're almost picturing him playing football, because that's where you would have seen predominantly his runs. But like big moments, he's really offering something different, which maybe we haven't seen from him.
Yeah, sure. I suppose look at he's such a strong runner of the ball, isn't he? And even it was noticeable the last day how the amount of ball that he linked up between themselves, and Sean and Lan linked up to play really well. I thought, like Dahi to Sean and back to Dahi and that kind of stuff. And at the end, I think he sniped two points from play again. And for your centre back to be doing that at club level is brilliant. I thought he was excellent again. Yeah, he looks in really good form. Yeah.
What do you think Turlough will have to work on most now ahead of Cashel?
Yeah, look, the Castlegar one is going to be tricky because I suppose it'll depend on what way Castlegar is set up. I suppose at times they've played with a 7 defender or a +1. So that's probably one they're going to have to. That's probably the one that's going to have to be wary of. You know how they're going to play about that. I suppose on the flip side, who's going to be their I suppose the Turloughmore +1, or who's going to be their player that's going to be free on the other end of the field, and that's going to be a big question for them as well. But yeah, that's probably the big one. How they're going to counteract that. We probably haven't seen too many teams in the last number of years playing at an out and out sweeper. Castlegar seem to be dipping in and out of it. The Crotwell game, the start of it, then they've kind of deviated from it and that kind of stuff. So that'll probably be the one that'll probably I suppose that their management are going to be trying teasing out behind the scenes and then on the training field for the next couple of weeks. Yeah.
And just finally on this game, like as you mentioned for Moycullen, they're obviously not going to be happy that they did lose this one. But like overall, when you think of Devonberry's really, and didn't look likely, it looked likely that they were going to enter a relegation battle after a Kilkenny game, turned their season around, remarkable results against Cappy, and even showed positives the last day. And you consider all this as well, probably without one of their main forwards, Phil McDonough, who's kind of struggled with injury for most of the year for the championship.
Very much so, yeah. And I think even I- I'd say the age profile of the team is really good in terms of James Bradley, Colin Cunningham, Diarmuid Davern. All of these guys are young players, and the strike is guys that are going to be kind of the stalwarts of this team for the rest of their careers for their next 8 or 10 years. So they will be. I think when they sit down, when the dust settles, they will be happy. They will be happy. As I said, I think the management have done a top class job there, led by Queevy and Davern. I think they've done a top class job. And as I said, if they can keep bringing on a couple of players every year, which I've no doubt they will, I think I think they're going to places, and they're obviously doing an awful lot of good stuff behind the scenes there. Yeah.
The second game after that in Beer Stadium on Saturday, Clarinbridge 220, Ardrahan 216. I presume, like everyone, this was the game you enjoyed the most over the weekend.
I think so. Yeah, I just think it was. It was a cracking game, wasn't it? I just think it did a bit of everything, really. Like it was. I was a cracking game. It was up and down the field. There was a great little bit of niggle to it, which I suppose we all like to see in championship games. But it was, and how it ebbed and flowed. Like with 5 minutes to go, I was like, "Are Drang going to win the game here?" And they were just coming like a train. And then the ball goes down the field. Josh O'Ryan gets a brilliant goal. I think he got it, like to show that, I suppose, bravery and the courage to take on the shot. I wouldn't associate Joshua. I worked with him in the minors, and I wouldn't associate him with a free scoring forward. He was always a wing back midfielder for us or for ourselves. And great fella, top class fella. But how he had to show the composure to take a touch, bounce the ball off the ground, stick it in the bottom corner, like it was brilliant, yeah. And then obviously Evans score. Just the game just ebbed and flowed, didn't it? And as I said, I thought it was cracking game, yeah, cracking game, yeah. One of the best games I'd have seen all year, to be honest with you, yeah.
Just on Ardrahan, when they got back level, there was 3 or 4 chances, and the one that I think everyone thinks of when Derek takes that free, gives it short to Garage Ford, and he's nearly looking for the ball back, and Garage Ford sees himself in space and goes for the opportunity and just goes wide. And then there was 1 or 2 more chances after that. I think when they look back on that, that's where they'll have the biggest regret.
Yeah, that's what's going to keep them awake this week, isn't it? It's just when they sit back and they watch the video, or maybe they mightn't watch the video this week, but when they watch the video in the next couple of weeks, they'll be saying, how, and that's the tricky part when you come down the home straight in games, 5 minutes to go. Your ability to finish out games, that's really tough. And that's what'll hurt them, because they did have, as you said, Paul, like they did have chances to win the game there, yeah. And yeah, again, it's unfortunately they come up short. But I suppose a bit like Moycullen, to be honest with you, I've been really impressed with Ardrahan this year. I think it was at every one of their games, and yeah, I like how they go about their business. I like their style of play. I like their directness. They're obviously playing through their strengths. They've been really good, and I suppose kudos to their management, Still Doyle and Sean Doyle and the lads there, and they've they really, you know, when you're with a team and when you see them doing everything, you know, and they gave everything for the jersey, the weekend, it's just a pity that they come up short, wasn't it? Like, you know, but they've given their supporters a couple of great days out this year. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Yeah.
Did Johnny Glenn's suspension play a part, do you think, in the end of them? I know there's opportunities there, but you're still thinking that even when the balls were going long there, that they just needed someone like him on the edge of the square.
Yeah, I know, and I suppose Jason Kennedy was in there, and Neil Latanian was in there, and yeah, of course did they miss him? Of course they did, yeah, of course they did, because he was having a cracking campaign for them. But yeah, look at that. That's going to be another regret for them, I suppose, when they do sit down. But yeah, they've had some outstanding displays throughout the year. Michael Walsh, Keane Walsh, all these guys they've been top class. Jarek, Keenan, I suppose they've carried themselves really well and put on great performances. But look, I suppose that's not no good to them this week. They're disappointed. They'd love to be in the hat, and unfortunately they come up short. But again, a bit like Moycullen, by all accounts, they're doing brilliant work behind the scenes in the club over there in terms of their S&C and gym and facilities and everything in the club over there. So fair play to them on that, and you can see it transferring into the team. There seems to be a great link between their supporters and their team now as well, and it's kind of like a rising tide is lifting all there. So yeah, fair play. But yeah, it's just disappointing they come up short. Yeah, but I thought they were heroic now, to be straight with you. Yeah.
You mentioned at the very start, Clarinbridge, like that it's a huge kind of victory there for them to get over when questions are asked for you, because ultimately it looked like they had the game won halfway through. That second half became a bit flat, and Ardrahan got that 2-2 to really rescue it. But there were still massive stages during that game. Clarinbridge looked really solid defensively. Even I think everyone was surprised to see like Dylan Dunn at such a young age be given the responsibility to go as the extra man.
Yeah, and I have to say he was really comfortable on the ball. Yeah, but what I will say, he got great help around him. I thought Ian O'Brien was brilliant since he came back in. He's been a brilliant addition. Oisin Salmon playing number 7, playing wing back and attacking with the game. I thought he was excellent. I'm not sure what's the story with Shane Bannon. He's a loss to him. He's a super player. If they could get him back into their defence as well, I think it'd be a brilliant addition. But yeah, Ian O'Brien, Oisin Salmon were really good. And then obviously, as you said, Dylan Dunn was obviously, I suppose, played as their sweeper, and he was excellent. His use of the ball, you know, how he helped out his 2 inside backs, how he covered back the field, his use of the play or use of the ball. He was very brave in possession. You know, for a guy's you know what, an under 20 player, you know, fair play to him. Now he was super on the day.
You talked about Joshua Ryan's goal. Oisin Salmon's vision for the first goal was tremendous, really, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, but not only that, the pace he puts on the ball, the way he can transfer the ball as quick as he could, and an accurate ball then as well. Like it's one thing trying to transfer the ball quick, but it's the other thing trying to put it in some guy's hand, and he did that. It was a super ball, like, and he didn't have much to hit. In fairness to Toshin, but it was a cracking ball, yeah. But he did that a few times throughout the game. He really wanted to. He really wanted to bomb forward and help out as an attack, and I suppose you can do that when you have Dylan behind you as your spare player, and he did that role excellently, yeah, as did probably Shane Ryan, the far side as well. The 2 really attacking wing backs, yeah.
You mentioned there how they really answered some of the questions at Clarinbridge. It was kind of an up and down group campaign. They probably admit for themselves, but I presume from seeing everything the last day, you've definitely seen improvements now with them.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Clonmore defeat would have hurt them. I can remember going that evening, going like, you know, I'd say they were really disappointed with that. But sometimes that can work in your favor. You know what I mean? You get a defeat, and you know you're backed into a corner, and when you're backed into a corner, they have to come out fighting, and they've certainly come out fighting the last day, and even throughout the course of the game. they had some sticky patches, as I said to you, but like, you know, it's club hurling in Galway. You're not going to go and run the games for 60 odd minutes. But their ability to you know, hurl the way out of that, and you know, Evan to come up with a big score, Joshua Ryan to come up with a big score, they'll be quietly happy with that now, because I suppose, bearing in mind, and it's funny, you're looking out in the team, the Clarinbridge team is very young. Like, people are probably forgetting that a little bit. Like, you know, there's not too many guys there that are over 30 years of age. It's a very young team. You know, a lot of them playing under 20 tonight. And there's a lot of them in early 20s. They're a very young team that David Ford has built this year. So credit to him on that. Like, you know, a lot of young guys, you know, Liam Lean, Joshua Ryan, all these guys are all under 20 players, and people are probably forgetting that a little bit. So for them to dig out that result when it potentially was going away from them, yeah, as a management, I'd say the boys are quietly delighted with that. Yeah.
How vital, and even like you're looking from Loughrea, you look at Evan Ireland's frees the last day and some of the ones he was scoring, particularly with the day we had in Pearse Stadium as well. 12 points, 11 frees, some remarkable frees. But how important is he going to prove for Clarinbridge, and even from a Loughrea perspective now? Like, I'm sure they're working on these situations now in training when they know what they're going to be coming up against.
Yeah, look at like and it was interesting. He was even even his free taking style. I'd say he was trying to speed it up in the first set to get more momentum in the game and tempo in the game, but it didn't deter Evan, because I suppose he's such an outstanding free taker. But yeah, like Evan is putting down the ball 100 yards from goal in Pearse Stadium, and you're saying, yeah, look, you know, he's going over the bar here. Like, he's as free taking is top class. Like, he's top class free taker, lovely style of free taker. But yeah, look, it's one you can be sure Loughrea are going to be worried about that, because look at any fee from here out, you know, there's a fair chance Evan's going to score it.
Just on Derek's Valley performance before we finish up on this game, because we haven't really touched on it, but even his performance the last day to, I suppose, rescue the long balls into the square, which worked in his favour, and then some of the points he got, and even from his own puck outs, like, it was one of the most remarkable goalkeeping performances really in the club championship this year so far.
Very much so. Yeah, he was super in everything he did. His handling, his puck outs, freeze, the penalty, his assurance in the penalty. Like, you just knew, you just had a fair idea he was going to nail his penalty, which is, you know, credit to the bloke. Like, yeah, he's had a super campaign. He's had a super campaign. To be fair to Derek, he looked really good. He looked really assured in everything he did. His long range free taking, which is tricky. Looking at Pearse Stadium to hit a long range free is tricky, but yeah, he was excellent. He's an excellent. He did super campaign.
You mentioned Clarinbridge, Loughrea. It's the pick of the quarterfinals now, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it probably is, and probably you throw Sarsfields and Oranmore probably in the mix as well, and that's a tasty one as well. But yeah, the bridge in Loughrea, that's yeah, to me is probably the standout. Yeah, on top of that, yeah, Loughrea are obviously off the last. They're going to be off for the 4 weeks, and I suppose how they've handled that, and presume they played their challenge game. Yeah, but like Clarinbridge are going to be road tested. Yeah, it is the makings of a really intriguing tie, and I suppose you can start even flicking through and, you know, just jotting down who's going to pick up who, and there's going to be some brilliant matchups. Like, you know, like, does Ian O'Brien go to Martin McManus? You know who goes to Jamie Ryan? You know, who goes to Keen Salmon? Who goes to Gavin Lee? Who goes to Evan? You know, there's matchups all over the place. Mark Kendy comes back in the team. You know, who picks up Mark Kendy? So there's going to be intriguing matchups, and a lot of guys. These guys are going to be familiar with each other from underage hurling, from Galway, from Fitzgibbon. Yeah, it is like you go through the matchups. There's going to be some intriguing, I suppose, personal jewels, isn't there?
Really is. It's one to look forward to. The third quarterfinal was the game on Sunday in Dublin Park. Cappataggle 423, Gort 218. A lot of people had question marks over Cappataggle going into that game, but I was just saying on the podcast, it's just one team you just can't doubt.
I know. Look, I suppose if it's the word consistency, and I say that's probably what probably bugged them a bit this year. That they're probably the start of the year, people are kind of, you know, where they're gone, and look at they've you have to bear in mind they've lost, you know, Paul Claffey's gone, Dan Evan is gone. these were mainstays of their team, you know, and these guys are hard to replace, and they obviously went to a lot of younger players, and that takes time, doesn't it? But the last day, like I loved watching them the last day. I thought what they did in the first 20 minutes was super. Now, like how they moved the ball, how they got their finishers on the end of everything they did in terms of trying to get Jay on the ball and Liam Collins on the ball and Niall Collins on the ball. I thought the bit of super brand of hurling got an awful lot of puck outs away. The puck out return was really good. But their ability to get the ball into Liam's hands, Niall's hands, Jazz hands was brilliant. Now how they worked the ball, I suppose credit to the two midfielders there. Now I thought Oisin Finn and Lewis Coughlin were excellent. They were they found them with plenty of ball, and look, that's going to be a watch out for Thomas's in terms of, you know, Liam, Jan, Niall. They've got real pace, but they have got great finishing power then as well.
Liam, Niall and Jan full flow, like there's not really a better side from one club team in Club Hurling when all those three get motoring, is there?
Yeah, sure. Look, they've a bit of everything, haven't they, in terms of pace and obviously bags of skill and the whole lot. But look, they caused Gort no wind trouble. Like Gort, quite a few different things on them, a few different markers on them. Pulled Jason Grealish back as a sweeper at times, but yeah, it didn't. It looked like it didn't really seem to matter that the boys were still getting good ball in, and the likes of Liam and Jay and Niall, as you said, were getting some fabulous scores, really. Yeah.
Even from James Gale's puck outs the last day, it's kind of trademark puck out he does like to do in Duggan Park, but where he could even just know where to hit it into that pocket, and one of those three players was going to be there every time.
Ah, very much so, yeah. And Niall in particular, I think I'd say Niall got maybe 4 or 5 puck outs in front of me there in the right half forward position. Like he just popped it into it and he came running onto it, and they got great return off their own puck out, and that's probably something that you can be sure Thomas are going to be zoning in on, that, you know, they can't get, like, I suppose, if there's an awful lot of space in front and he's allowed to run across the field, and, you know, that's not going to be happening in St. Thomas's. You know, when you have a half back line of John Hay, Shane Cooney, Cathal Burke, you know, that ain't going to happen. So but yeah, the return the last day was super, and then on the end of that they got some great scores.
Were Gord maybe a bit naive the way they set up at the start to go like that against Cappataggle?
Yeah, but I suppose they were saying, look, here we go, like, we're, you know, one shot here to get to a quarter final, so they probably rolled the dice to some extent, you know. Maybe should they have moved Jack Grealish back on one of the guys earlier? They probably wanted to leave Jack in midfield in terms of driving forward. That was probably the only thing. It was, you know, they really tormented the Gort backs. Yeah, they really did. I suppose on the flip side of Gort, you know, did come away with a good score, but just defensively, defensively they won't be happy how it panned out. But look, that's probably a work on for them for going forward to next year. Yeah.
Nearly seemed like before half time they got themselves back into the games, but then Cappataggle just that kind of scoring spurt straight after half time would kind of put the game to bed, because Gort were kind of chipping away, building themselves back into the game.
Yeah, I'd say maybe as you said, the end of the first half there, they clawed it back. They got the few scores, and at halftime you were saying, yeah, you're not quite sure, but as you said, Cappataggle started the second half really strongly again, and look, they ran out convincing winners. They had strong performances all over the field, Cappataggle, yeah, and Gorton on the day probably didn't have much of an answer for them, did they? Yeah.
Do Cappataggle now try and alter the game plan for Thomas's? Because you mentioned there's some of that obviously not going to work against Thomas's because they're a much harder unit to break down from a defensive perspective. Like, how do they approach going in now to Thomas's?
Good question, but actually, look, it's a tricky one. They are not going to deviate a hell of a lot in terms of what they've been doing all year. Like, and you know, like Stephen Graven is a fierce, accomplished hurling coach and hurling manager, so he's going to be sticking to what he's doing. Of course, he's going to be but is he going to try and find some chinks in the St. Thomas's armour? That's what he's going to be looking for the next couple of weeks to see where can they get a little bit of, I suppose, joy from. But no, are they going to try and do what they did in the first half and try and get ball into Liam's hands and Jan and Niall? Of course they are, yeah, and they're going to try and move the ball quick and get it in quick. Because if you get the ball in them guys' hands, it's very hard to defend against. And 9 times out of 10, the likes of Liam, he's going to get a shot away. Like he's got such good movement. He's got such good feet to get a shot away. Yeah, they are going to cause St. Thomas's trouble. There's no doubt about that, yeah, because they're just such a good set of forwards, yeah.
We talked about Dylan Dunn's role as sweeper. It was Dara Dolan's role and the way he came back in. Obviously, started off corner forward and went back into that sweeper role. Is that what really kind of gave them the stability and probably their biggest improvement?
I think so, yeah. I think that helped massively. And as I said, the two guys playing midfield, it probably gave them the license to bomb forward a little bit as well. But Dara Dolan's a very experienced player. He's a very experienced club player. And I suppose he's a very good ball player. And I suppose he's the guy that wanted on the ball in terms of trying to link the play from back to front. And he did that. And he did it really well. But yeah, like that's probably where they're going to go the next day, and they're probably going to try and get the ball into Dara's hand and try and get link the play from back to front, as I said. But yeah, look, there'll be, all I will say, there will be a lot more pressure on a ball player in the middle of the field, and the likes of Lewis Coughlin, Oisin Finn, Dara, they're not going to get the run they got against Gort. There's no way about that. But yeah, that certainly will be the game plan. Try and move the ball quick and get the ball into space into guys inside.
Can they buy in now to kind of do they have to kind of buy into this kind of motivation? Because obviously Thomas's are going to be raging hot favourites going into the quarter final, but can Cappy quietly come into this using it as a bit of motivation because they're not going to be given much of a chance in the quarter?
Of course they can, yeah, of course they can, yeah, because then Thomas are raging hot favourites, and probably rightly so, as we said in terms of the record in Galway. But Thomas's, as you said, Cappataggle, as you said, are massively consistent side in Galway. We'd all appreciate that, and what they've given to Club Hurling in Galway in the last number of years has been brilliant, absolutely brilliant. But
would you have found them a difficult opponent to come up against in your tenure?
Yeah, very much so. I think semi-final in 19, we won at a point, and Evan had a sideline cut to draw the game. Actually, just unluckily drove a wide. But they were brilliant. Yeah, we should have brilliant in that time, and they were unfortunate that they didn't get over the line in terms of getting to a final. They were very unlucky. Yeah, and I think as hurling supporters, we probably would all have loved to see them get into a final. Do you know what I mean? Because I think we all agree that team probably deserved to get to a final, but look, it didn't happen for them. It didn't happen for them. They can probably come up against a good Thomas's team, good Lee Mellow's team at the time then as well. They come up short. But yeah, they're back rebuilding again. Look, obviously they won the under 20 last year. They got a great fill up from that, and there's a lot of those guys, as we said, progressing onto that team now. And yeah, good young team. The age profile of the team would be very young, and yeah, look, they'll quietly fancy their chances against St. Thomas's, no doubt about that. Yeah.
For Gort, kind of similar to some of these teams that lost prelims, quarterfinals, have to be happy with the season, because you talked there about Cappataggle bringing in a lot of youngsters. Gort brought through a massive amount of youngsters onto this team last day, and even when it was going against them, you still had the likes of Nathan Gill at centre back, who was really kind of driving forward. Paddy Cummins chipped away with 113, which remarkable scoring really, and Ben O'Donovan's been very solid throughout the championship. Owen Cooley, like a lot of younger Gort players stepping up.
Very much so, yeah. And I thought Nathan Gill was super in the second half. I thought he really carried the fight, for a young player. He's an under 20 player. I thought he was brilliant. I thought when they moved him out the field, I thought he really drove the thing forward, and he stayed fighting, which is a great trade in a young fella. Yeah, they will. They'll be obviously fierce disappointed that their season has come to an end. But yeah, you're right in what they're saying. A bit like some other teams in the county, they are in a bit of a rebuilding stage in terms of, they obviously have to replace the likes of Aidan Hart and these guys, and these guys have big boots to fill, because obviously the likes of Aidan Hart, what a brilliant servant he was to the club, and when these guys leave, it's really hard to replace them. But yeah, I think Gort are going in the right direction in terms of that they are blooding the young guys. As you said, the Paddy Cummins is good. Cooley was very game at full back. But yeah, Nathan Gill to me was the standout for them. Yeah, I thought he was excellent the way he carried the fight there, particularly in the second half.
Was it just his driving forward really which impressed you most?
He was, and I thought his use of the ball was really good as well. He really was trying to do he was trying to do the right thing on the ball, which is a great sign of a young player. Yeah, he did, as I said, he'd smash in the second half. Yeah.
It's probably character most. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we talked about it on the podcast after the Turloughmore game. It really felt like that could kickstart their season.
For Gort, Paul, is it?
Yeah, for Gort, yeah.
Yeah.
Really...
Yeah, it was a funny one that they've kind of had an up and down season, I'd say, is probably how they probably describe it, you know. Yeah, and again, they're on probably on the back of a couple of good underage teams there in the last number of years, and they're trying to blood in these players. But it's tricky. Yeah, it is tricky because I'd say if you did an age profile of their team, it's all of a sudden has become very young, a bit like Cappataggle. That there's a few of the older guys that stepped away, and they're trying to throw in the young guys, and sometimes it doesn't always work because you think a young guy is ready, and next thing he goes out and he plays senior club championship and he gets an eye opener because is he ready hurling wise? Is he ready conditioning wise? Do you know what I mean? You have a lot of boxes to take, to play club hurling in Galway. And, some guys might think they're ready, but when they do go out, it turns out they're not ready because physically, it can be very tough, So, yeah, I think a lot of clubs will be focusing a lot in terms of their strength and conditioning over the winter. And that'll be a big focus for a lot of clubs.
But finally, then on the last senior prelim quarterfinal before we get on to some of the other grades, Sarsfields 327, Clonmerdale 118. Kevin Cooney was just unremarkable.
Yeah, it was funny. Even like the buzz in the crowd, it was great to see like the buzz in the crowd when the ball even went near him. People were kind of going, "Oh, yeah," they were expecting him to do these things. He was brilliant. He was top class. Yeah, and I thought he's not alone his goals, but I thought his free taking was on the money as well. But yeah, no, I liked what I saw from Sarsfields. I thought they're really good. I liked their shape of their team, if I'm honest, as well. I liked.
Management had some brave calls too for that game.
Ah, yeah, and sure, look at no better man than Francis Mann to make a brave call. But like, I thought the John Cooney one wing forward worked with three. I'd say he won 4 puckouts, long puckouts cleanly, which is brilliant. And then Jeffrey Lawless is a player I like. I just think he offers them something different. I just think that Sarsfields probably need those guys up top because John Cosgrove, Darren Murphy, Paddy McCarthy, Alex Cunyer. I do think you need a couple of ball winners. They're all brilliant players and they're going to have great futures for their club. But I do think you're going to need a couple of ball players and or a couple of guys at ball winners. And I thought the two of them were really good. And I liked, as I have to say, I really liked their balance of the team. I thought Ian Fox was smashing around the middle of the field. Niall Quinn was super wing back. Obviously, Joseph was excellent again at centre back. Kevin Hines is excellent full back. So they'll be really happy. I'd say it was probably their best performance of the year, and they'll be really happy leading into a quarter final. I think they're. I'd say when they sit down as a management, they'll be saying, "Yeah, look, I like the balance." I think there's some good, bit like Turloughmore. They're going to get a lot of bench impact. Whoever doesn't start, who's going to come off, like you see the likes of Darren Murphy coming off the bench the last year, but a brilliant sub to have. So they will be happy. They will be happy in terms of their building panel strength all of a sudden. And but they're going to need it for Oranmore because Oranmore are going to put up a big stern test to them.
Sarsfields now the dark horses of the pack for the senior championship.
Yeah, they probably are. But I think everybody would agree the start of the year, the Sarsfields are going to be thereabouts anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like you look down through the Sarsfields team sheet, it's sprinkled with quality, isn't it? Like, and they look, they have the hurlers. There's no doubt about it. They have the hurlers, but yeah, they'll be happy. They'll be happy after again recovering from the Castlegar defeat would have hurt them. Not alone the defeat, but I'd say the manner of the performance that day, I'd say would have hurt them. And then coming back the last day, I thought they yeah, I think they went about their business very professionally, I'd say, yeah.
Particularly the younger players there, you talk about the Alex Kinnair's and these players. It's just the last day which is standing out. It's their ability just to pop up with scores, find themselves in space, and like even some of the scores Kinnair was getting the last day was remarkable.
Yeah, Alex found himself into lots of little pockets of space, didn't he? And I think he finished. Did he get 4 or 5 points? But he was really good on the ball. He's a smashing striker of the ball. Yeah, he was very good to them, playing as kind of a roving centre forward role, and he was just jumping around. Made it difficult for the centre back. Jumping around, jumping into pockets of space, and taking a score. He was excellent allied to Ian Fox. I thought the two of them dovetailed really well there in the middle third.
It's just ultimately when you look at the game on an overall context, Sarsfields 321, Clonmerdaley 118. Sarsfields never gave any chance in this game for Clonmerdaley to get into the groove. They worked a few scores, but never really gave them any chance to get back into the game, and that's probably what's going to disappoint Clonmerdaley most now, looking kind of back on their season.
Yeah, I think when the dust settles, they will say they had a kind of an up and down season, but I think it was probably more positive than people give them credit for, because they did have a poor season last year. They were poor last year, and obviously Gary Earls comes in, Aidan Ryan comes in. They've done a super job, but they will be disappointed how I won't say it petered out for them, but how the year finished out for them, because like they took a brilliant scalp on Clarinbridge and Athenry a few weeks back, and it looked like it was going to be a kickstart for them, but no, it didn't work out that way for them. But they'll be disappointed, because they'll be disappointed in the manner of the defeat to Sarsfields. There's no doubt about that, yeah. Because I thought that day when they beat Clarinbridge, I thought they were going to get a massive bounce from it, yeah. And yeah, look, it didn't turn out that way. No, they've had some really strong performances throughout the year. Obviously the Concannon brothers have been really good. Luke Linsky's been really good. They've had some really good standout performances, but they'll be disgusted. Yeah, they'll be sickened with the defeat the last day. Absolutely.
And under relegation in the senior, Tommy Larkins beat Portumna there, so they're safe now. And then you have their Kilkenarn and Crowell have to do battle again this Sunday, and it's really tough. You're like, relegation's tough. No one wants to be there, but you almost have a bit of sympathy now for whoever kind of loses Kilkenarn and Crowell has to bring themselves kind of back down to earth again to play a relegation final against Portumna.
Yeah, and I presume that'll be the following weekend again. So they're going to be out 3 weekends in a row. So that's going to be difficult, yeah. But it is whoever loses this weekend. I wasn't at the Crotwell Kilkenarn game, but by all accounts, it's a really good game. A competitive game up and down the field, yeah. But you're right. Whoever loses has to face into Portumna, who are probably going to eye up this game and all that. So it's going to be a tricky one, yeah.
After Larkins, they'll just be delighted to be out of this, really, won't they?
The way they had rotten luck with injury, didn't they? Like when you take Ronan and Jason out of it, they were Connor Slattery picked up an injury as well. I think, you know what I mean. So they just had rotten luck with injuries, hadn't they? They didn't get a break this year, and which was unfortunate. And look, that can happen. That can happen. But they'll regroup and come again. There's no doubt about that, yeah.
On the senior B, then action we had over the weekend, Ardran Climber first, just on the senior B relegation. Athenry won that 228 to 112, so they're safe. And Climber goes back down to intermediate just a year after being promoted to senior B. Similar to Tommy Larkins, a rotten luck with injury, but
Yeah.
Athenry as well, like, there's been a serious amount of negativity in the last few weeks, and I'm sure the players have got a lot up close and personal that they wouldn't have liked, but they've got themselves out of that hole.
Yeah, I suppose just on Climber first, they just, as you said, they had a rotten luck with injury now. Just talking to a couple of them, they just they just didn't get a break. There was one injury after another, and they weren't short term injuries. They were all long term injuries, which was I suppose the killing part about them. So yeah, look, really disappointing. Yeah, I was delighted to see them win the intermediate last year. Won it in tremendous fashion last year, I thought, and yeah, look, it was just unlucky, and then to go back straight down is unfortunate for them. On the flip side of it, Athenry, yeah, look, they dug themselves out of it. So they got themselves into an awful hole, didn't they? And I suppose they dug themselves out of it. Yeah, it was a tough year for Athenry. Yeah, tough year to be in Athenry, to be potentially relegated from senior would have been such a blow to the club. Yeah.
Do they already need to be looking at next year to get their house in order so a situation like this doesn't occur again?
Yeah, you would think so. And again, look, there's obviously tremendous underage talent in the club, and they could even this year alone they've won the Fela, and like, they've been in under 16 finals and all that as well. So there's look, there'll always be talent in Athenry. Look, won't there? Like, and I suppose I grew up in
Were you,
Admiral.
were you surprised to see them in this situation?
I was, yeah, because like you know, there's some top class hurlers there. There's no doubt about that. And but look, sometimes that can happen. You know, there can maybe a little bit of bad luck and here and there, but yeah, it was surprising to see them in relegation. Absolutely.
Can they recover now from this? Do you feel and progress and
Actually, look, you'd hope so. You'd hope so because I suppose even looking at the bigger picture in terms of Galway hurling, I think Galway hurling needs a really, really strong Athenry, don't they? Like, you know what I mean? They've been like I grew up on Athenry, going around the country watching Athenry games in All Ireland finals and or All Ireland club finals and club semi-finals. Phenomenal club, and yeah, look, no doubt they'll be back. They've good underage talent coming through, and a lot of guys doing good work in the club.
just then on the senior B semis? You had a Haskell beating Beha 117 to 16 points, and Lee Mellows comfortably dispatching Port Pierce's 322 to 113. Apart really from a few of us would have expected Athenry to be in that last four, but the four now we have of Kilnadeema-Leitrim or Haskell obviously playing in one semi-final, and Mullia and Lee Mellows, they probably are four from the outset that you would have expected to be thereabouts.
Yeah, I would probably say so. Yeah, Lee Mallows was probably the standout result that really put Pierce's to the sword. And then Haskell winning as well. I suppose being without Bahi Kane, who's probably been their marquee forward outside of Joe Gantley, maybe this year he's been really good. Yeah, I would say so. I'd say probably from the outset, probably people had probably their eyes on these teams. Making the two good games again, absolutely two good games, and clubs playing different styles and that kind of stuff as well. So they'll be intriguing fixtures. Yeah, it has been a very competitive competition. I think the senior B this year. I think it has caught the imagination out of people, to be straight with you. But and yeah, look at hopefully that will continue to grow as well. But yeah, I like the look of the four teams that's left in that, and I think you're going to have two very close games there.
There was a question mark at the start. How would this be perceived? It's 8 teams who are ultimately can't advance their provincial, so and it's only winner up as well, one up, one down. But to me, already it feels like the senior B championship has worked.
I think so, yeah, and I think even crowds will tell you that as well. And I think there's been really good interest in it, and we've had a couple of Pierce's games now. They've been very good. They've been very competitive, and you know they've been yeah, it has been. I think it has probably has caught the imagination. I was probably a little bit like yourself. I was maybe a little bit skeptical that 8 teams, you know, how is this going to fare out? And it's two groups of four, and you know, it's a very, I suppose, it's small group in terms of the 8 teams. But yeah, no, I think it has worked out well. And as I said, I think one of two smashing semi-finals and potentially a really good final there. Yeah.
Who's going to win senior B?
I probably would have said from the outset, I would have probably said maybe Kilnadeema-Leitrim. But just looking at the Lee Mellows team sheet and how they went about their business the last day, yeah, the Lee Mellows have still some smashing players and a lot of players there with real experience. So yeah, I think either of those teams I would probably say right now, yeah.
Yeah, the Mellows really recovered this season. Remarkable. Just then, the final result there in the under 20 final, Clarinbridge 28 points, Oranmore-Maree 210, 7 points from play from young Aaron Island is remarkable. Really, and Josh Ryan, Dylan Dunn, and Lean all impressive as well. Finally, then just on the intermediate, the the game of the weekend there really was Kinvara and Ballygare. I wasn't at it now myself, but I had the commentary on. Ballygare went up by a point twice in injury time, and Kinvara pulled a goal out from their full forward, Aidan Hanrahan, to rescue the victory. But the drama there was just unbelievable.
Yeah, I was actually talking to a couple of people that were at it and they said the same thing. And I think there was a couple of controversial decisions in it as well and stuff. So yeah, I think it was by all accounts a great game and ebbed and flowed. I think Kinvara were well up at one stage. Ballygar clawed them back. I think Stephen Lohan had a cracking game by all accounts. Yeah, nice result for Kinvara.
Yeah, Kinvara played Mealy Aircourt there, Ballindereen played Round Newcastle, Teen Abbotsbury played Carnmore, then Ceylon play Clarinbridge. How do you see the overall landscape of the last 8 now in intermediate?
It's probably tricky, Paul. I think we're probably going to know more after the quarterfinals. I think like if you look at it, Aircourt, Kinvara, it's going to be a balanced game. I think the last number of years we've probably expecting Aircourt to come and win one, and they haven't. Kinvara obviously have been a very young team this year. They've brought on an awful lot of young players, and some of the young players are really thriving. The Joshua O'Connors, the Dara Helberts, young Curtin has been really good taking the frees. And then you look at Teen Abbotsbury coming down last year. They'll be hurting. They'll be looking to go straight back up. Carnmore have been good. Do you know what I mean? I saw a couple of their games. Danny Cummins has been good. Yeah, they have been good. So Silent got to a semi-final last year, really unlucky. Clarinbridge second team, they'll have loads of hurlers. They'll be good. Rahul Newcastle under John Paul O'Connell will be good. And Ballindereen for me are probably the outlier. I like what I see in Ballindereen. Yeah, I think probably there's a lot of people talking about Teen Abbotsbury, Aircourt, these teams, but Ballindereen, yeah, I think Ballindereen are going to be in it to have a fair shout on this. Yeah,
It really is that, isn't there? There's obviously the two, Tina and Mealy, but the rest of them teams, like there's nothing between them, and there
there
always
isn't.
is this one surprise in intermediate.
So yeah, and there is like, and people are forgetting Cylon. Like I watched Cylon and Climber last year, and Climber went on to win the game, but like Cylon were super impressive on the day. Now, the game could have gone either way. Rahul Newcastle had a really good year. I haven't seen them this year, but a really good year last year. Back in a quarter final, they'll fancy their chances. But yeah, like I suppose a lot of people are talking about Tina Abbotsbury, Aircourt potentially. Yeah, but I think Ballindereen are going to have a big say in the championship. Yeah.
Just then, just finally, on the relegation, just an intermediate. Kilbegany are safe after their victory. Crowell are safe after their victory. So it's Spittle versus Turloughmore second team. Ted, it's probably hard to believe Turlough second team after getting to knockout stages year after year and now one game away from junior, but you're still just expecting them to get over the line. Just with Spittle have just had a really difficult year this year.
Yeah, I think Spittle have had a difficult year, as you said, and I think Turloughmore's senior team has probably pulled a few guys off the intermediate as well. It probably hasn't helped. But again, look, it's a very hard game to call, isn't it? Yeah, I'd say the Turlough senior team probably didn't help the intermediate team turn pulling off a few players here and there, and but yeah, it's a very difficult game to call.
Yeah, like all those relegation games are going to be. So the fixtures will be coming out in the next couple of days for the senior and intermediate quarterfinals and the senior B semi-finals. But that's all we do have time for on our show today with Kevin Lally. And thanks a million to Kevin for coming on.